Now, this video that you just saw is from Russia. Xi Jinping, Moscow's perhaps most important geopolitical partner, is having a very important summit with Vladimir Putin as of now, and both the leaders have agreed to make sure that Russia and China ties enter a new era. A lot of very important symbolism was seen in this summit, and look, I must admit, since Western nations don't really like either Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping, I saw on social media that a lot of Americans, a lot of European people were posting memes like this one. I didn't really make this one. Of course, I picked it up from the internet, and there were many such memes like this because, as you guys probably know, Xi Jinping is often referred to as Winnie the Pooh because of the uncanny resemblance between the two. And Vladimir Putin is now being referred to as the piglet because the piglet is always very loyal and friendly towards Winnie the Pooh. And let me show you a little clip. In this clip, you will see that although most of the world leaders have either condemned Russia's war against Ukraine or have said, you know what, this isn't the time of war, this isn't the era of war, Xi Jinping outrightly said, Putin, no matter what happens, you will always be my friend.
Уважаемый президент Путин, я всегда называю вас как моим дорогим другом.
我非常高兴能够应你之约再一次访问俄罗斯，并且是在我连任国家主席之后的首访国家。
Now, did you just notice the symbolism in that meeting? Look, interestingly, in this entire summit, no new agreement was signed. Nothing was announced like China is going to invest 60 or 50 billion dollars in Russia, or even China will supply weapons to Russia. Nothing of that sort. None of that. This entire summit was about symbolism, was about showing the world that China stands with Russia. In what aspect, in what ways, how will China help Russia? That has not been made clear by either of these world leaders. But there came a time in the summit when Vladimir Putin was heard saying that, you know what, China has developed so rapidly, it has industrialized so quickly that even Russia, even Russians feel a bit jealous, a bit envious of China's economic development.
Колоссальный рывок вперед в своем развитии. Во всем мире это вызывает неподдельный интерес, и мы даже немножко вам завидуем.
世界各地的人都非常关注中国的发展的历程，我们甚至有点羡慕你们。
В Китае создана весьма эффективная система развития экономики и укрепления государства.
I have never seen a world leader openly admit to another leader that we are actually a bit jealous of your economic development. And I never really expected Vladimir Putin to say that. But look, this statement is of great importance. Russia clearly expects a lot of things from China. Already Russia has pretty much replaced Saudi Arabia and other Western Asian nations to become China's top oil supplier in the month of January to February. And this is pretty much expected to continue. China believes that Russia is a stable source of energy supply, and Russia will pretty much depend on China for foreign exchange reserves. And you'll be surprised to know that both Russia and China have a combined trade volume of more than $189 billion. And in the recent summit, both the leaders have agreed that together they will make sure that Russia-China trade reaches a new high of $200 billion by 2024. If we compare this to India-Russia trade, then the trade volume between Russia and India is roughly around $50 billion. And that too, it is very much skewed in the favor of the Russians. They pretty much export a lot of things to us. We hardly export anything to Russia. Whereas in China's case, a lot of Chinese companies like Huawei, OnePlus are finding a lot more business opportunities in Russia because Western and Japanese companies have recently pulled out from the Russian market. There is no iPhone, there is no Apple in Russia right now, there is no Samsung. So there is a huge vacuum that the Chinese companies are filling easily. Now, one question that you might ask is, how will this impact India and US? Look, now, the biggest concern that the Americans have about China and Russia is that China is actually planning to secretly export a lot of weapons to Russia. Not even export, they might even give them for free. because the relations between both the nations are so deep. And Anthony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, has said this repeatedly, that China might give weapons to the Russians. And look, if this happens and if it is proven that China is indeed supplying Russia with weapons, it will become very difficult for India to stay neutral. I mean, even as of now, let's look at Japan. Japan is a very important partner of India. Now, what the Japanese Prime Minister did recently, he came to India, he had a very important bilateral meeting with Indian Prime Minister, and after that meeting, he straight up went to Ukraine. Just try to picture this. Both these Asian leaders were seen supporting different sides of this conflict. And as this Ukraine-Russia war goes on, the pressure will pretty much be on India in the upcoming G20 summit, that how do we handle this budding relation between China and Russia? Because look, Russia is very much interested in building groups like BRICS or RIC, but China's aggression against India isn't really decreasing anytime soon. So in the coming few years, you might see a decisive change in the Indian foreign policy. Either Russia will be able to persuade the Chinese leadership that look, you need to build stronger ties with India, we cannot allow India to side with the West, or the Quad nations will keep increasing their cooperation, and eventually Russia and India will slowly drift away. And finally, before I end this video, let me show you this little clip. This is, of course, from the summit between Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. And in this clip, Xi Jinping is seen hinting towards a big action that China is about to take in the coming few years. Just have a look at this clip.
Перемены, которые не было в течение 100 лет. Там, где вместе двигаем эти перемены. Перекиньте, пожалуйста, дорогой друг.
Things are going to change now. Things that haven't happened in the last 100 years. I really wonder what he meant by this. What do you guys think? What do you guys think China is really planning to do? Something that hasn't been done in the last 100 years. I can only think of one thing, the Taiwan issue. But do let me know what you guys think about it. I would like to know your opinion. And this here right now is the end of the video.